everybody, welcome to the Comic Game Movie Show. My name is Deshaun and I am back. Sorry about last few days. I have been pretty sick. I'm still going through it, but I don't think I'm gonna cough up a lung. I actually tried to do this video like days ago, but I couldn't do it because I just started coughing. But anyways, Thor Love and Thunder comes out tomorrow, actually, Thursday night anyways. So in honor of Thor Love and Thunder, I was going to review the original first Thor. The movie came out in 2011, and while I do think that this film isn't as good as isn't as good as Iron Man 1 or the first Avenger, I do still think this movie is good. And it's hard to think about this now, but the movie accomplished more with against it than Iron Man and Captain America, because while the high technology of Iron Man was a lot, it was something that we could think about. You know what I mean? While the technology was a lot, it was something that we can conceivably believe. And while Captain America was a period piece, it was a time period that's been well documented, which is World War II. It's not that insanely, difficult to just drop in some dude with actual superhuman abilities, which it's not like he's shooting out fireballs or anything. He's just a superhuman. So Iron Man and Captain America were a lot easier for audiences, including myself and many others, to digest than a actual Norse god, Thor, from another realm, Asgard, its golden city. Like, that's a lot to take in. Thor as a character and Thor as a movie had a much steeper uphill climb than those other films did. And this was back in the beginning of Marvel, back when they couldn't do anything, really. Back when, the first failure means the movie is done, back in the day. So, well, not the movie is done, like the first, if one of these films fails, the MCU doesn't happen. So there was a lot going against this film. Not only, and on top of it off, they hired two relative no-names. Everyone already knew who Robert Downey Jr. was. Sure, Robert Downey Jr. was dealing with a lot of stuff, but Robert Downey Jr. is a former Oscar-nominated actor. Chris Evans has been around, has been in many movies. Scott Pilgrim. I don't know, actually, I don't know if he was a Scott. I don't remember when Scott Pilgrim came out, if it came out before or after Captain America. But Chris Evans was in a lot of movies. He was in the Fantastic Four movies. Chris Evans had been around. He had been in many movies. People had seen him. Obviously he was in that one teen comedy movie. So was Robert Downey Jr. So we knew these two actors. We knew who Chris Evans was playing Captain America. We knew who Robert Downey Jr. was. No one knew who Chris Hemsworth was at this time. No one knew who Tom Hiddleston was at this time. The biggest name in this movie was Anthony Hopkins. And Anthony Hopkins had personally, I think Anthony Hopkins gave an amazing performance in this as Thor's father, particularly the throne room scene when he is banishing Thor. That is one of my all-time favorite MCU scenes. Just the sadness and the disappointment and the anger and the rage and just like him just casting him out. It was so awesome. Unfortunately, you never would get another performance like that from him. You were hoping you would get it in Dark World, but never quite lives up to that. But Anthony Hopkins is great in this film. It was like literally the villain and the main actor playing the villain and the hero were no names. In fact, an article came out, which you can look up, that literally pointed that out. That Marvel is coming to these no-name actors to star in their big movie. It would be the beginning of Marvel doing that in many, many, many times before. You got Kenneth Branagh, the guy who fucking does, Shakespeare stage plays, to direct this film. There was a lot going against the movie. I say all that to say that at the end of the day, I thought that the original Thor was a damn good superhero movie. It was a fun fish out of water origin story that had some of at least that action sequence at the beginning was one of my favorite Thor action sequences, because it just embodied everything Thor was about when he was fighting those frost giants. It was just so awesome. and seeing him swing the hammer around. Like, it was so badass. And Chris Hemsworth was perfectly cast. Like, honestly, I can't see anyone else playing Thor. Chris Hemsworth has been so perfectly cast as Thor, as Marvel Thor anyways, that he has changed the perception of the actual Norse mythology Thor. Because in Norse mythology, Thor is thought to be a redhead, chubby guy. You know, like, it's not like fat. It's just, you know, he's a muscular dude. He's one of those dudes. You know, like those Samoan dudes. You know, like those Samoan guys who could rip a fucking phone book in half, but they got this gut, and you're just like, well, fuck. I mean, that's what Thor looks like in Norse mythology. But then Chris Hemsworth comes with the blonde hair and the ripped and the huge muscles, and it's like, dude, what the fuck? He completely changed people's perception of what Thor was. And looking back, all of his best moments outside of the action beats were the comedic beats. Another, I mean, come on, who hasn't said another? Like, if you're an MCU fan, you have probably made a reference to or remember the another line and him smashing the cup down. Like, there are so many things in this. It introduces Hawkeye. We get a better look at Phil Coulson. There's a lot that happens in this, but I do think that the standout in this movie is Tom Hiddleston's Loki. Now, this is going to be a hot take, maybe a controversial take. I actually think Tom Hiddleston is a bit better in this movie than he is in the Avengers movie. Because in the Avengers movie, he's the bad guy. You know what I mean? He's the bad guy, but he is taking glee and delight in being the bad guy, and it's fun. He's a fun villain. But in this movie, there's a bit, in the original Thor movie, there was a bit of nuance to him. Though he wasn't a black and white guy. Because at the end of the day, with all the planning, the scheming, everything, all he wanted was the approval of his father. He didn't want to kill his father. Hell, he didn't really want to kill his brother, really, when you get right down to it. It was just petty anger. It was one of those things where you just get the vibe that even if he had killed Thor and went on, he would have regretted it. Because he wants to get the approval of him. And if he killed him, then he can't get his approval. So... Sorry. So, I love that, and I always love that sequence with Anthony Hopkins when they're confronting each other, and they're just talking about the lie that he stole him away, that he never told them the truth. And like I said, can you really blame Loki for reacting the way he did? He spent years feeling like he never got a fair shot at being sorry. There we go. He never got a fair shot at being the king of Asgard. As far as he knows, him and Thor are the same exact age. Yeah, they look nothing alike, and you know, he's a smart kid. He's piecing it together, and he's wondering, like, why do you favor Thor over me? And then he discovers that everything he was told was a lie. You can understand his reaction. Sorry for the pauses. I'm still going through some stuff, but I really wanted to get this video out before the movie came out. At the very least, I wanted to get this video out before the movie came out. So bear with me here, people. But either way, I love that performance, and I thought it was a very complex situation for a villain. I think at that point, he was the most complex villain in the MCU. It's why, like, honestly, his performance was so good in this movie, and you know, some people don't question it because you probably haven't seen the movie in a while. But his performance was so good that's why, like, that if you don't know this, which, you know, maybe some people don't, the Avengers movie was going to have two villains. It was going to be Loki and the Red Skull. Now, you know, now they might have to recast the Red Skull because Hugo Weaving was, you know, kind of butthurt about the makeup and stuff, even though nowadays they don't even need it anymore, but I don't know, whatever. Fuck Hugo Weaving. I mean, no, but still. Like, it was going to be the Red Skull and Loki. But, Hugo Weaving's aside, Kevin Feige decided that Loki's performance was so good in Thor, Tom Hiddleston was so good, that they were like, let's bring him back. We just need him. We just need him, because he's that good. That's how good his performance was in this movie. Not everything was great. I thought that the love story between Jane and Thor, while I wasn't one of the people who were like, oh, it was dull as a board, I will tell you, it's not strong. It's nowhere near, like, in comparison to Pepper and Tony and Steve and Peggy, oh, it's not even close. not even close. like it's not even the same ballpark as those two in comparison. But, you know, it didn't distract from the movie. Also, there's not actually a ton of action sequences with him as Thor. In fact, there's only technically 2 action sequences with him as full Thor, which, you know, as someone who went into the movie wanting to see him as Thor, it was a bit disappointing. Ironically, The Dark World was the opposite. It was just him as Thor and a shit ton of action sequences. But it was disappointing, ironically, not seeing him fighting as Thor the whole time. So, you know, there's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of comedic bits. Though I do think most of the comedic bits hit, especially some of the stuff with Darcy with her tasing him and him, you know, him getting sedated and shit. A lot of that shit worked. But not everything works. I do like the scene with him and the hammer once he gets there, but the whole him getting in there and fighting the guards and stuff, I could have done without it. I thought it was okay. They could have done give Phil Coulson more to do. They really downgraded the Destroyer also, because the Destroyer in the comic books is a badass weapon. Like, the Destroyer in the comic books it's indestructible. Like, the best you can do is somehow manage to hurt the wielder of the Destroyer. You can't destroy the Destroyer. Like, the Destroyer is indestructible. Like, it's a beast. You know what I mean? Like, and it's something you can only control it telepathically. And really the only way you can stop the damn thing is if you find a way to hurt the guy who's holding it. But you can't actually destroy the Destroyer. And I remember being sort of like, as a kid, because as a kid, I remember watching, being like, the Thor just destroyed the Destroyer. Okay, sure, why not? You know, that should have been my first sign that the MCU is going in a totally different direction with certain things. I'm like, the Destroyer is like, it's Odin's go-to fucking weapon. It's a weapon of mass destruction. You can destroy a planet with that fucking thing. It's a beast. But I digress. Overall, I really did enjoy this film. Rewatching it again, I enjoy it even more. I think that Tom Hiddleston and Tom Hiddleston and Chris Hemsworth in particular are doing great. I think Anthony Hopkins has great moments, particularly that scene where he's banishing Thor. Tom Hiddleston is the standout. I think the rest of the cast is serviceable. There are some hilarious beats, some iconically hilarious beats, because I think everyone remembers another slam the glass down. And I think that first action sequence up top was awesome. I thought it was just plain and simple awesome. Even rewatching it again with the Frost Giants, I think it was just dope. I would give Thor, the original Thor, an 8 out of 10. I always gave it an 8 out of 10, just in case people were wondering. I always thought that movie was an 8 out of 10 because I thought what it had to do and what it did successfully, I thought it lived up to that. I really did. I ended up enjoying it more than that. Maybe I gave like a 7.5 at first, but rewatching it again, like, there's nothing bad about this movie. There are things that don't work better than others, but there's nothing truly bad in this movie. And the things that are really good are very good, and the things that don't work just are like, I could have took a left at. That's pretty much it. So that is my review of the original Thor. Comment below. Sorry. Let me know. Have you ever seen the original Thor? If you haven't, it is on Disney Plus. I would check it out. It's worth a watch just to see how far this character has come. Anyways, thank you guys for joining the Comic Game Movie Show. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next one. Goodbye.